What's going on, guys? Sumi here with ThoughtCast, and today I'm going to tell you how to stop blaming your partner for things. I think a lot of relationships fail because the partners don't have effective communication. People just don't know how to talk to one another. You've got to understand that you're talking to another human being, and this person is not your material object. They're not your slave. They're not someone that's just going to do something for you because you're dating them or you're married to them. They're going to do things because they like you. That's the whole point of a relationship. People jump into a relationship because they like one another. And I think this gets messed up a lot of times in relationships where one partner will just order another person around or blame them for things when it's not necessarily their fault, and they come off as aggressive. A big problem in a lot of relationships is the way that you say things, because it's not necessarily that you're saying the wrong things because you guys know each other very well. It's that you lose patience in the relationship. And when you lose patience in the relationship, you begin to talk more aggressively. And when you talk more aggressively, it comes off in a negative tone. When it comes off in a negative tone, your partner may not interpret it correctly, and the conversation might begin rough. When the conversation starts to change into that trajectory, it begins more of an argument. And when you argue, you are not likely to compromise, the communication falls apart, the comprehension is not there, and the relationship begins to deteriorate. So the big thing I think people need to do is stop blaming each other for problems when they arise, but instead look at the problem as something that you need to solve collectively. And a lot of conversations happen like this in a relationship, where someone does something wrong and they say, hey, you're not supposed to do this. I always do this. You always annoy me with this. Oh my God, you're so bad when you do this, that, and the third. And it becomes this. You're pointing at them. You're blaming them. When you blame people, they're automatically going to get defensive. When they get defensive, things really start to become an argument because you're trying to change a behavior and you're trying to get some growth in the relationship in a positive way, more so in your aspect, and then they are really not open to it. They're saying, what do you mean I do this? I don't do that. Well, you always do this. They start bringing stuff up about you. You get in this whole landslide of just argumentative verses and conversations and statements and sentences that don't really get you anywhere. So the biggest thing I want to talk about is how you stop blaming people. Number one, lower your tone. Stop talking loudly. Stop screaming at them. This is probably the simplest thing to do, but it's something that we don't notice at all. Just lower your tone. Whenever you're getting irritated with your partner, learn to control your breathing. The mind follows the body. If I cut your arm off right now, your mind is going to be in a lot of pain because your mind is going to follow the body. If you're doing a lot of push-ups and you stop doing those push-ups, you're probably going to have a lot of dopamine, serotonin pumping through your body and a decrease in cortisol levels. And you're going to feel a lot better because the mind follows the body. So understand that you need to control your breathing. Lower your tone by controlling your breathing. I recommend taking a deep breath or holding your breath as long as you can before you complain to your partner about anything. It sounds weird, but it is very effective. When you hold your breath, you're going to reduce your heart rate and you're going to be a lot more calm. Then you can start the conversation in a more controlled manner. And if it does irritate you, learn to just breathe very calmly and then continue the conversation in a lower tone. Indoor voices. You don't need to scream at someone, especially your partner, because in a relationship, it's not going to expedite an outcome. It's only going to make it worse. Number two, mold it into a wish. And this is very complicated. A lot of people will do this. They'll say, you did this, I deserve this, I never get this from you, so on and so forth. But instead, be calm about it, right? Step number one, and then mold it into a wish. Say, I really wish that you would pay attention to me sometimes. I really wish that you would take the time to do this, that, and the third. I really wish that sometimes you would take the trash out because, it's difficult for me because I hurt my hand the other day. When you say this, it's less aggressive and it's more so like a request. You want to be calm about this. You don't want to be aggressive and blame them. And you can be as constructive and creative about this as you need to be. I really wish that sometimes when your mother came over and she started yelling at me, you would take my side a little bit because it feels like I am not equal to her and you always put her above me. And, it sucks because it hurts my feelings. And here's step number three. When you mold the wish, explain why. Explain your reasoning. Explain your emotions. Talk clearly about your emotions. It is because I feel bad. It is because it makes me feel terrible. It's because I have these issues where I'm insecure about my nose, about my height, about my weight, and it makes me feel like I'm less of a person. I really appreciate it if you wouldn't do that. And so step number three is really explaining why. Fourth is I would really appreciate that part right there. I would really appreciate it if you would just try a little bit more. So a perfect statement would be something like this. I really wish that you would pay a little bit more attention to me because sometimes I feel like I'm the only one that's, involved in this relationship. And I would really appreciate that maybe on Saturdays or on the weekends, we could go do something. Would that work for you? The last part is a solution. The last part is saying, I would appreciate or I would like or I would really enjoy if we could do this. And you're putting a solution in place. And then you would tie them down, right? You would say, does that make sense? Is that okay with you? Is that something that we could do? That's the last part right there. So, step number 1 is lower your tone. Step number 2 is talk to them, but explain it in a wish. Step number 3 is explain why you would like the wish. And step number 4 is offer the solution and tie them down with, does that make sense? Is that applicable? Can that work for us? And that's how you're going to stop blaming your partner and getting more success with the conversations that you have instead of just going into arguments. Hope this helps, guys. Sumi out.